This old man tied 1,000 balloons to his house and took off. Find out what happened next in our review of the wonderful Cartoon Up. This boy's name is Carl. He's sitting in a movie theater watching a wildlife video. It turns out that the popular explorer Charles Mantz has set off for Paradise Falls in his airship to show his audience animals unknown to science. Mantz always travels in the company of his heroic dogs. This time, he brought back the skeleton of a huge bird from his expedition. The audience was delighted. Wait a minute. Scientists examined the strange skeleton and realized it was a fake. Mantz was exiled from the research community. He vowed to return to Paradise Falls and find the bird to restore his reputation. Meanwhile, little Carl is running around the street with a balloon in his hands, dreaming of becoming an explorer too. He hears a voice coming from a nearby abandoned house. He climbs inside and sees a pretty girl there. Her name is Ellie, and she's also a big Charles Munster fan. She claims this house is a private, elite club for true travelers, and he invites the boy over. Carl's balloon rises to the ceiling. He tries to reach it, but something goes wrong. At night, Carl, with a broken arm, is reading a book. That same blue ball flies into his room. Ellie appears right behind it. The girl shows her new friend her adventure album and tells him she dreams of moving her club to the cliff next to Paradise Falls. There's just one small problem. Ellie doesn't know where he is. She asks Carl to help her build an airship in the future. Carl and Ellie grow up and, of course, get married. They renovate the old abandoned house and it becomes beautiful and cozy. Our heroes go on picnics, read books, gaze at the clouds, and dream of having a child. They decorate the nursery, but, alas, Ellie loses the baby. Carl supports his wife and suggests they go on a trip to a paradise waterfall. They begin saving for the trip, but they constantly have to spend it on various household chores. Things like car repairs, unexpected injuries, a broken roof, new purchases. So the years pass, and Carl and Ellie slowly grow old. Despite this, they still love each other. One day, elderly Carl finds a childhood photo of Ellie and finally decides to buy tickets to Paradise Falls to please his wife. He invites Ellie to a picnic. However, while climbing the hill, she becomes ill and is hospitalized. Carl brings his favorite balloon, and she hands him her adventure album. Soon, Ellie dies. Carl is left completely alone. A few more years pass. Old Carl wakes up in the morning and struggles to get out of bed. The old man descends the stairs in a special chair. He eats breakfast, dusts, puts on his hat, and goes outside. Construction is in full swing around his house. All the old houses are being torn down, and new ones are being built in their place. Carl looks around disapprovingly and checks his mail. He receives an invitation to a nursing home. The workers inform Carl that a developer wants to buy his property, but the old man is categorically against it. He returns to his house and watches television. A boy named Russell comes to visit him. He's a young tracker and wants to do something useful for our old man to earn another badge. Carl tries to chase the annoying boy away and makes up a story about a certain snipe constantly trampling his flowers. Russell immediately rushes off to find the pesky bird. Meanwhile, workers accidentally break his mailbox. Carl lunges at the construction worker and hits him on the head. The police arrive. Soon, a court hearing takes place. The court finds our hero a danger to society and orders him sent to a nursing home. Carl takes out the adventure book Ellie gave him and realizes he must keep his promise and go to Paradise Falls. The next morning, staff from the nursing home arrive. Carl hands them his suitcase and asks them to wait in the car. Meanwhile, he and his home fly off into the sky on thousands of hot air balloons. For the first time, the old man looks truly happy. Carl's house flies through the city, astonishing all passers-by. It rises higher and higher, and our hero uses his curtains as sails. Carl watches the compass to stay on course. The old man sits down in his chair and begins to doze. Suddenly, there's a knock. Carl opens the door, sees a nervous Russell on the porch, and lets him in. The young explorer is thrilled to be flying over the city. Carl tries to lower him to the ground with a long rope, but to no avail. The old man is angry because Russell is too talkative and never shuts up for a second. Soon they find themselves in thunderclouds. Carl tries to turn his house around, but it's hurtling straight into the eye of the storm. Everything rolls and falls, and the old man struggles to save his most precious possessions. Morning comes. Russell boasts that he piloted the flying house all night. It turns out they're already in South America, and the Paradise Waterfall is just around the corner. Carl gradually cuts away the balloons so that his house can finally begin to descend to the ground. The landing is very hard. Our heroes are thrown from their house and find themselves on the edge of a cliff. Carl sees that they've landed in front of Paradise Falls, but his house is still suspended in mid-air above the cliffs. So how do we get inside now? Russell suggests walking to the waterfall and carrying the house with us like a giant balloon. It's a stupid idea, but there's no other way. Meanwhile, a group of vicious, ferocious dogs is chasing a huge bird in the jungle. A brightly colored bird tries to escape pursuit, and suddenly a flying house appears between the trees. The dogs are frightened, but the bird escapes. Russell becomes very tired and asks to go to the toilet. Having finished his business, he notices the tracks of a huge bird in the sand. A red beak peeks out from the bushes. Russell treats the bird to some chocolate and sees that it is truly enormous. The boy brings the bird to Carl and boasts that it's a snipe. The old man tries to chase it away, but it turns out the bird really loves to play. Russell names it Kevin and offers to take it with him. Carl isn't very keen on this idea, especially since Kevin doesn't seem very bright. Nevertheless, the three of them continue on their way. Soon our heroes meet a talking dog. His name is Doug, and he's quite funny. The thing is, his collar has a special device that converts the dog's thoughts into human speech. Doug admits he wants to catch the huge bird, but Kevin attacks him first. Russell begs Carl to take the dog with him, and the old man reluctantly agrees. Now there are 4 of them. Meanwhile, the other dogs are chasing them. They must carry out their master's orders to find and catch the enormous bird. Carl tries to get rid of Doug and Kevin. He throws the dog a ball and the bird a piece of chocolate. He then tells Russell to get out of here quickly. They make their way through the jungle, reach a small cliff, and meet Doug and Kevin there. It didn't work out. Night falls and it starts to rain. Russell sets up a tent, but it immediately falls apart. The boy admits he's never been camping in his life. Morning comes. Kevin climbs onto the roof of the house and squeaks pitifully. Doug says he's calling for his children. Russell finally realizes that Kevin is not a male, but a female. Suddenly, our heroes are surrounded by a group of angry dogs wearing translation collars. They try to find the bird, but it's nowhere to be seen. Then the dogs decide to take Carl and Russell captive. Our heroes are led to a small rocky plain where dozens of vicious dogs are hiding. Soon their host appears. He's an elderly grandfather whom Carl barely recognizes as his idol, explorer Charles Mance. The old man invites Carl and Russell aboard his airship and explains that he's been trying to catch this giant bird for years. Doug is shamefully restrained for letting her escape. At first, Carl is delighted by the unexpected encounter with his idol, but he soon realizes that Charles Mance is mentally unstable, obsessive, and quite cruel. Mance shows Carl the skeleton of a huge bird. Russell notes that the skeleton must have belonged to one of Kevin's relatives. Upon learning they'd found the bird, Charles becomes very angry and hints that he's gotten rid of all the hikers who were also looking for it. Suddenly, Kevin's scream is heard. Mance sees a bird perched on the roof of a flying house. At that moment, Carl and Russell escape from the airship, pursued by vicious dogs. Doug decides to help our heroes and shows them the way to salvation. Kevin also comes to the rescue, allowing himself to be used as a horse. Unfortunately, during another jump, Kevin's leg is grabbed by one of the dogs. The poor bird is injured and desperately calls for its chicks. Carl realizes he must save this bird and bring her home to his children. This is more important than the waterfall right now. They walk toward her nest, and a contented Kevin waddles toward his chicks. Unfortunately, at that moment, Mance's airship appears behind them. A net is thrown over Kevin. Mance himself appears and sets Carl's house on fire. He demands our hero choose the house or the bird. Carl runs to save his house from the fire, while Mance kidnaps Kevin. Our hero puts out the fire and sees a disappointed Russell standing before him. The boy calls Carl a traitor. Soon, most of the balloons pop, and the house sinks onto the rocks right next to the Paradise Waterfall. Carl enters the house and leafs through the album of his beloved Ellie's adventures. He sees that his wife has filled the empty pages of the album with photos of them together. She also left a note thanking her husband for the adventure and encouraging him to try new ones. Inspired, Carl goes outside and sees Russell flying to rescue Kevin, using balloons and a leaf blower. Then Carl throws out most of the furniture and souvenirs from his house. His house becomes lighter and rises into the air again. The old man flies off to rescue his friends. His faithful Dag flies with him. Russell catches up with Mance's airship, gets inside, but is immediately captured. Soon, Carl's flying house approaches the airship. The old man heroically rescues Russell and runs after Kevin. He uses the airship's ventilation to bypass the dogs and finds the bird in a cage. Using a ball, he gets rid of the guard dogs and frees Kevin. Seeing this, Mance releases the dogs on the fighter jets, and they fire in the direction of the flying house. Meanwhile, the villain himself finds Carl and attacks him. A battle ensues between the two old men, during which Carl and Kevin manage to climb onto the roof of the airship. Doug is being chased by a pack of vicious dogs, but he manages to neutralize their alpha and take over as the pack's leader. Russell distracts the dogs with fighter jets, and they crash. Afterwards, the house approaches the airship. Kevin and Doug climb inside, but Carl doesn't make it. An enraged man shoots at the balloons, and the house lands right on the airship. The villain, armed, breaks into the house, but at that moment, Carl lures Kevin with chocolate, and the bird, Russell, and Doug rush to him. Mance tries to catch up with them, but falls to the ground with a dozen balloons. Carl watches his house slowly sink, but calmly accepts the loss. Our heroes return Kevin to his, or rather, her chicks, and fly home on Mance's airship. Russell receives a badge for helping the elderly and the title of Senior Ranger. Carl gives him the soda cap Ellie gave him when they first met. They eat ice cream and count cars on the road. Meanwhile, Carl's house lands on a cliff overlooking a paradise waterfall. Ellie's promise is fulfilled.